In this course, I'm going to teach you JavaScript. You can be an absolute beginner, a junior developer, or a senior. This video is made for you to get back on your skills or just to learn all the basics of the language. Disclaimer, this video has been made a long time ago and it proves that I'm a senior developer since a long time now, so please forgive my haircut. But let's go directly here and type Visual Studio Code editor. And we are going to go on the official website. And on this official website, we are going to download Visual Studio Code if you don't have it. Okay? Once it's done, you are going to open your Visual Studio Code. Okay? All right. And me, I'm directly on my desktop. And this is where we are going to start the course directly on the desktop. So what is Visual Studio Code? Visual Studio Code, it's a software that creates files and code directly for us. It's writing a code. So basically we are going to write some code and it's going to save the code as files. So in here, if you click on here, you see that you have the tree view. And basically right now I'm on my desktop. So if you have your project inside a specific folder, go directly into it. Then next to it, you got a search. It's to search on your current folder. Then you might have the initial repository source control here tab. We're not going to use it for now. So to start this course, we are going to enter directly in what we want to talk about. In order to code in JavaScript, you first have to get an index.html file. So basically in here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to open an index.html file. Okay, this course is not on HTML, but we are going to write quickly an HTML file that we are going to display inside our browser. So basically in here, I'm going to open an HTML tag and I'm going to say hello inside of it. I'm going to go on my desktop and I'm going to open this index.html inside my Google Chrome. And there we go. We see here that I got my usual hello done. So every time I'm going to change something in here, it's going to change on my browser. All right. So basically an HTML file, it got a head with a title. Okay. So basically it's going my JavaScript example. Okay. It got a body. Okay, my HTML file body, and at the end it can have some scripts. Okay, and this is what we're gonna see now. So basically here I'm saving and I'm updating. In here we see that I got my HTML in here, but JavaScript, it's not HTML. What we're gonna do, we are going to right click in here and click on inspect. Okay, and inspect, it's going to open our console just down here. And this is where we are going to learn how to code in JavaScript. All right. So now we are ready. We are with our file. Let's create our first JavaScript script. We have our HTML file. Now let's create a first JavaScript file. So I'm going to right click in here on new file. Okay. And in here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a script .javascript, so JS. So as you see here, I got the icon because I have a special package for VS Code that you can find that creates icons on file extensions. So basically, all files with .js are JavaScript files. So he understands that in here, we are going to write in JavaScript. So I'm going to type here and there we go. I got my JavaScript script. Okay, but now how can I link this JavaScript to the HTML that we got in here? Okay, how can we do it? Basically, when you want to insert a JavaScript file inside an HTML, you have to create a script tag. Okay, so basically, this script tag is always at the end of the body, after the body, sorry. So basically in here, I'm going to create a script. Okay, all right. And in here, I gotta say to him inside, okay, inside my tag, I have to give him the source. So basically, I gotta type source. And in here, we see that my script is in here. It is at the root, exact root of index.html. So I'm going to type script, okay? All right. You think that is done? It is not done. Because scripts should have a type. So as an argument, as an attribute, of the script, I'm going to type here type, and it's going to be text/JavaScript. All right? So I'm going to save now, get back, and see what's gonna happen. Okay, all right. We see on the console and on the element tab that I got exactly the same file in here, so HTML, head, body, etc., as my file in here. And we see that we got my script in here. But nothing is happening. Nothing is happening on my browser. Why? Because nothing is written on my script in here. To start this course, you are going to write your first JavaScript line. And we are going to start with alert. So in here, in your JavaScript script, you are going to type alert. And inside alert, we are going to give a string. So a string, it's characters inside quotes. So it's supposed to be some text. And we're going to say alert hello world. Okay? So alert, it's a native function of JavaScript that is going to create a pop-up inside the browser and stop every process of the browser. It means that it's going to stop and show you a pop-up. And inside this pop-up, we are going to put this string. So basically, here between the parentheses, you are going to pass what we call an argument. And this argument is going to be this string. Okay, I'm going to refresh, and there we go. We've got our alert in here. And if you see, behind, the file is empty. I told you it's going to stop all the process. The script is going to be launched as first, and it's going to close every process, every rendering process. It means that the script here, the alert, is saying stop. Before rendering all the HTML that we have written in here, you are going first to alert. So here, alert is priority. Okay? So I'm going to type on OK, and there you go. Once we say OK, it's going to render all the rest. All right, but alert, it's just a basic. We don't use it that much. Another function native of JavaScript that we use a lot, it's console log. And basically in here, what we're gonna do down here, so I'm going to remove this line. I'm going to type console.log, and here we are going to call the console. So basically it's going to be here, our console. And we are going to say to the console, launch this method, this function called log. And like we did before, we are going to type hello world. I'm going to save, get back, update, and here nothing happens. Because we are not on the right side of the console. Basically, we should click on here, console, okay? Not on the element tab, but the console in here. And if I click, we see that I got a message, and this message is what I put in here, hello world. So if you have done this, you know that your script is executing all the JavaScript code written in your first JavaScript script. But what we create a lot in JavaScript, it's variables. What are variables? Variables, it's a place of memory that you are going to take and put an element inside, and the computer is going to remember that this place is containing this element. So to declare a variable in JavaScript, you got to type var. And when you type var, the computer understands that you require a place in the memory, in its memory. And in here, you got to give a name to this variable, because we are not going to put a number like this. We cannot recognize it. So basically you are going to type my variable. So I've typed my variable, and you should ask yourself, why did I put a capital letter in here instead of putting a space? It's because the computer is not going to recognize spaces and sentences like this. You gotta stick, okay? You gotta stick to the words. And why I didn't put a capital letter in here? It's because of conventions. And I'm going to put a link down below inside the description to explain you conventions. So to assign a value to this variable, I'm going to type equal, and then I have to type something. So here I'm going to open quotes and type hello world, okay? And down here, I'm going to console log my variable. And if I get back and I open, we see that it's exactly the same as console logging, okay? Hello world down here. It's just that what I did is here, it's not a permanent memory. It's just temporary. The word here has a type, and this type is called a string. String, it's supposed to be letters, sentences, etc., etc. It could be very long, containing tons of stuff, but you get many other types that you can use, basically. And we are going to see all of them now. So my variable could be a string, but it could also be a number. And as you see here, it's not between quotes. We see here on my console that it printed 12. And 12 is in blue instead of black, because here it recognizes that it's a number. You got also what we call arrays. And arrays are containing several elements. So it can contain hello world, then it can contain also numbers, okay? And here, if I console log, we see that my console is recognizing that my array contains hello world and this number 12. And we see here that we got 0, 1, etc., etc. It could be a list of elements. Arrays are used for listing elements, okay? You got also objects. And objects, it's a type very, very used in JavaScript. So I'm going to open curly brackets in here, okay? And in curly brackets in here, I've created my first object. It can be an empty object. So if I update in here, we see that I got an empty object. And basically in here, what we could do, we could say that my variable could have a name. But instead putting an equal in this object, we have to put 2 points, and we could put hello world in here, okay? So consider that an object is a list of description for one element. So basically in here, what I could do is put an age, okay, 12, and I could put, and if I open my object, we see that we can describe an entire person, for instance. So basically, if here I'm going to put Guillaume, so me, I could change here and put name Guillaume, okay? So Guillaume, and here my age is 32, and qualities, etc., etc. And also this object could contain another object, so like description, and let's say, there we go. And if I update, there we go. So I'm going to unzoom. We see that the object is containing many descriptions. And the last type I want to show you, and we are going to get back to my variable, it's called Boolean. So Boolean is just true or false, okay? So basically it's 1 and 0. And if I update in here, we see that I can use Booleans. So Booleans, it could be true. Is Guillaume here? We could say true. Is Guillaume away? We could say false. Okay, so it could be true or it could be false. And I'm going to show you later how to use efficiently Booleans in JavaScript. You gotta know that later in your JavaScript file, you are going to assign variable all the time. You are going to put a lot of elements. So basically in here, I could type again a Guillaume object, which would have a name such as Guillaume, okay? And in here, an age, okay? And then later I could have another variable called is available on true, okay? So I'm going to remove this one, which is useless. Console log this one, okay? And I could have what we call a list, and this list we could have bananas, oranges, kiwis, okay? Later you would have a lot of variables that will be written and always the same inside your script. But how do we change variables? You gotta know that when the browser is going to launch your HTML file, it's going to read from the top to the bottom, the left from the right. So basically, in your script, it is also the same. So here I got 3 variables containing data, okay? And what I should do in here, it's console log, for instance, Guillaume. So I'm going to console log Guillaume. I'm going to see, okay, Guillaume, it's an object that contains age and name. But what I did in here is that I want to change the value of Guillaume, okay? So what I want to do, I could say that at the end, Guillaume, it's only a string with Guillaume, okay? So can I do this? If I update in here, okay, we see that we got no error. But basically, you should not do this. When you put a var between a variable name, it's because you want to declare it. But once it's declared, what you should do is to remove the var and just say Guillaume because it's going to recognize. So use var only one time, just to declare the prop. You could have an error that says it's already declared, but it's just question of precaution. So at the beginning, Guillaume is an object, and as you see at the end, it's a string. So what happened? What happened is really easy to understand. Here I got my console log Guillaume, but if I console log Guillaume just in here, you will see that there is a difference. And when I update, there we go. We see that on line 5 of my script and on line 11, I got 2 console log, line 11 and line 5. And first Guillaume was an object, then Guillaume was a string. The lesson to learn about this is that you can override a variable. And in some cases, this could put you into errors. Why? Because let's say that in here later, you need Guillaume such as an object. If you change Guillaume value, this value will be lost, okay? If you change the position of an object, you will never find this object inside this position. Position, it's the variable and the memory space allowed to your variable, okay? So as you see, you can change assignment of object. Let's say that with is available, we are going to do the same, okay? So first, we are going to console log both of them. At this moment, in here, is available is going to be true. And in here, what do you think it's going to be? So if we get back and update, we've got 2 true booleans. Okay, so basically it's supposed to be true. But if I change is available to false, is it going to be true? Let's save, get back, update, and we see that it's false. Okay? So from the top to the bottom, it's going to read your code, and you can change your variable value this way. Okay, all of this is very nice, but what we want to do, we want to create operation, we want to do stuff. We just don't want to assign variable to elements. So here I'm going to delete all of this, And I'm going to create a new variable. And this variable is going to be a number, okay? So here I'm going to create a variable called oranges, and it's going to be 12. 12 oranges. So basically we've got 12 oranges, okay? And here I'm going to create a new variable called bags, and there will be 3 bags. And let's say that there is 12 oranges inside one bag, okay? I want to know how much oranges do I got. In order to do so, I'm going to do an operation and create a new variable called results. And this result is going to be 12 multiplied by 3. What I can do is I can console log this result. All right? So I'm going to get back, update, and in here we see 36 as a result. So basically, JavaScript took 12 multiplied by 3 and did the operation for us. So as you saw before, I can replace 12 by oranges, because oranges is 12, and 3 by bags, and it's not going to make any difference. But if I put 3 bags as a string, and I update, we've got this NaN. What means NaN? NaN, it means not as a number. You try to mix numbers with letters, and it's impossible. You're supposed to have in here numbers that multiply numbers. But let's say that we want to say that we've got 3 bags. What we could do, we could say bags, and we can concatenate, so put a plus and a string and say 3 bags like this. So it's going to take the value of bags, then with the plus it's going to concatenate our string. And if I get back and I update, we see 3 bags. So what we want to know if 12 is upper or lower or is equal to 3. And if I do this, what is going to happen? I get back, I update. We see that we've got what we call a left-hand side in assignment. It means that I put equal next to each other like this, and it doesn't understand this. What we gotta do is put parentheses to say is 12 is equal to 3. And if you do this and get back, you also get an error. And this is interesting because what you gotta do, you don't want to, here you assign with 1 equal, but you want to know if 12 is equal to 3. You gotta put 2 equal. And if you want to know if it's literally the same, you gotta put 3 equals. And if I do this, what is going to happen? I update, and we've got a boolean as a response. Why? It's because in here, we just ask the computer to say to us, is 12 the same value as 3? And the computers are only one response possible, it's booleans. It can say true or false. And if I put 12 is it equal to 12? I update and I got a true. Okay, so this is comparison. You could do the same with, of course, Guillaume is Guillaume. He is going to compare every letter and say to you true or false. True. But if I change one letter, let's say this, let's see what's going to happen. False. False because it's not a capital letter. And of course, if you don't get the same letter, it's the same. Okay, this is comparison. So what we could do also is to say, is oranges upper or lower than bags? Is 12 a bigger number than 3? And if I get back, there we go. We've got our booleans. Is oranges lower as bag? False. Is oranges lower or equal as bag? False. Is oranges upper or equal as bag? True. So let's say that I console log this list, all right, and I get back. There we go. But how can I modify this list? If I want to push inside this list, let's say a new element, a new variable, call, let's say mango, okay? Let's say that I want to put mango inside list. How can I do this? It's really easy. What I gotta use, it's native function like we saw with alert and log of JavaScript. Those native functions for arrays are listed on developer.mozilla.com. I'm going to put the link down below. And to push an element inside an array, we just gotta use list, and next to list put a point, and in here I'm going to type push, okay? And I'm going to open parentheses, and inside in here I'm going to put mango, okay? And I'm going to console log, okay, list again after. Why do I console log? Because in here you will see I will trigger the operation, then console log. So basically I should have list plus a new element called mango, okay? So get back in here, I'm going to update, and there we go. We see that list, okay, have mango, where mango is in my list. It's really easy. Let's say that I want to access just mango. What I can do is in here, okay, I want to console log the number 3 element in my list. And to access this, I gotta use brackets. So here I'm going to call list, and I want the index of the element that I'm calling. So basically here the index for mango is 3. So if I want to access mango, I gotta type list 3 as a number. And if I get back and I update, we see that I got mango. If I want to access bananas, okay, I should put 1. But if I put 1, what is going to happen? I'm going to get oranges instead of bananas. Why? Because if I update again list and I see it, the first element of the array is not a 1, it's a 0. So let's say that now I want to change bananas, and instead of bananas, put a new fruit like strawberry. What I gotta do, I can say that list 0, it's going to be strawberry, okay? And if I console log my list again, we will see that the index 0 is going strawberry and not bananas. And if I update, there we go. I accessed my array and change bananas by strawberry. If I want to change oranges, I'm going to put A1. So now strawberry is in the second place. And if I want to change my mango, and mango is supposed to be in the third place space, there we go. I got strawberry. Okay? Okay, amazing. So now let's say that I want to remove the first element of my array. I'm going to use list.shift. All right? Shift removes the first element from an array and returns it. So basically, if I get back in here and I update, we see that bananas has disappeared. Okay? Bananas has disappeared. So here I'm going to put strawberry as the last position. So we're going to have mango, bananas, not bananas, orange, kiwis, mango, strawberry. So with shift, you remove the first element. Okay? Remove first element. All right? Now let's say that I want to remove the last element. What I should use is pop. Okay? Pop. And if I put my here there we go, I'm going to type it again, removes the last element of an array and returns it. So I'm going to update, and strawberry, which was the last element, has been removed. All right? So this is how you manipulate an array. We will see later more native function that will help you to manipulate arrays. Okay, now we saw how to access arrays and modify elements inside arrays. What can we do with object? How can we do it? So now let's say that we are going to create a new variable called Guillaume. And in here, I'm going to have a name. So my name is Guillaume. My age, which is 32. And let's say specifications. Okay, and specification is going to be another object, and which is going to be size, so size centimeters. Let's say weight, which is actually 880. There we go. Okay, so we've got Guillaume, and if I console log my variable Guillaume, I got my object in here. Let's say that I just want to have the age of Guillaume. How can I access this? So my object is Guillaume. And I can put in here brackets and type age. And let's say what's going to happen like we did, okay, with the array. So basically, what I put it age between quotes, because if I put Guillaume with a 0, I'm not going to access name. I'm going to get back, update, and it says that it's undefined. Undefined, it means that the variable is empty. There is no 0 index inside the object. This is because we don't access the object this way. What we do, we are supposed to type a point, and in here I'm going to type, we see that it suggested age. I'm going to access what we call a key. Objects, they get keys that you define, okay? I could define with everything that I want. It could be cuckoo, etc., hello, what you want, okay? This is the key, and the key has a value, and this value is an inside variable of the object. So if I type Guillaume age and I get back and I update, I got 32. If I want to access the name, I should put the name, okay? And now I get the name, okay? But now let's say that if I want to access specifications of Guillaume, so I update and I got an object and I want only the size. What we can do, we can what we call chain. So basically I'm going to put a new point in here and a size, and it says that I want the size of specifications from Guillaume. And if I update, I get back, and there we go. So you can access deeper objects this way. Okay? So now let's say that I want to change the specification size of Guillaume. So we are going to do exactly the same as before. And let's say that I have lost 1 centimeter, okay? And I'm going to console log again Guillaume. So basically, you can do it this way. If I go here, we see that the original object has a new value, which is this one. So basically, you could do this way all around. You could change, for instance, Guillaume age, okay? And instead of 32, we could put plus plus, because in here we got a number, and plus plus, it's going to add 1 value to the current variable. So basically in here, it's going to be 33, okay? So let's say I put this and I update, and we see that I am 33 years old now, and that my size already changed from the original element. So this is how you manipulate objects, but we can go deeper, okay? We can go deeper. Let's say that I want to add a new object to Guillaume. So I could type Guillaume, okay? And in here, I could say, for instance, that I want to put qualities, and qualities could be an object. And in here, I could put kindness, for instance, and a value as 100% of kindness, okay? So basically, now it's going to add this object to Guillaume. And when I'm going to update, there we go. I've got my quality in here. But let's say that in those qualities, it could be an array that contains simply kindness. I update. How can I access the first element of kindness? We saw it before. Now we know that qualities is an array. I could put brackets and say, I want to see the element 0 of this array. So I get back, I update, and here I got kindness, like we did in the last lesson. But let's say that in qualities, I got objects, an object named kindness, and here I got a value, and this value is 100%. Okay? Let's say that I want to put the value to 110. What I could do is to type, so basically I'm going to do this, qualities 0, so here is going to be kindness, dot value plus plus. And here I'm going to console log Guillaume dot qualities, okay, and the first element of qualities that I want to see. So in here I'm supposed to be on 101, okay? If I get back and I update, there we go. And if I do the same, in here, it is the same. And 110, as I said, there we go. All right? So basically, I'm going to show you a last thing that you could learn, which is interesting. It's the delete qualities. Okay? So let's say that my object got qualities and I want to delete those qualities. I could type delete qualities. So if I get back and in here, it says undefined, because now Guillaume doesn't get qualities anymore in its object. This is how you read and access objects. We are going to see deeper what can we do with object manipulation. In JavaScript, there is an element that we use all the time. This is functions. Functions help us to create actions already defined that are going to be triggered at a certain moment of our script. So basically our script is supposed to trigger a lot of code, okay? And let's say that I'm going just to keep Guillaume, okay? And basically I want to create a function that I could use everywhere. So let's say that I want to console log Guillaume at many places all the time. I should copy paste console log everywhere. And when I get in here, we see that it's console logging every time I put a console log. Okay? Let's say that it would be cool if it could be written only one time and not copy pasting all the time. Okay? Because let's say that Guillaume could be a string and I want to copy paste Guillaume the same value everywhere. Let's say that sometimes I could make mistakes like this. It's not going to be the same result everywhere. If I want to copy paste this console log, I could create a function. And this function, it's going to be declared under a variable. So basically in here, I'm going to say that this variable is going to be called show me Guillaume. And instead of being a string, a number, an array, an object, or a boolean, it's going to be a function. And to declare a function, you get a type function, open parentheses, and then curly brackets. So why we do this? I'm going to explain you why. By writing function, the browser is going to understand that you are creating some kind of action, an algorithm that is going to trigger many actions every time you are going to call show me Guillaume. So this function, it has to know what it's got to do in order. what it's going to do first, second, third, etc., etc. So basically, it's going to be between the curly brackets that we are going to decide what show me Guillaume is used for. And to trigger a function, you have to open the parentheses. So what is going to happen when I trigger show me Guillaume in here? We see that show me Guillaume is executing, okay, is executing the console log in here. But what I could do is change, for instance, my age. So Guillaume age is going to be, let's say, 40. And if I update, we see that now my age changed, okay? But if I don't trigger the function and I console log Guillaume, okay? It doesn't change. It means that in here, in between the curly brackets, the action of the function hasn't been triggered because I didn't call show me Guillaume. Those functions, they could do many things. Calculate VTA, for instance. And let's say that we want to calculate a VTA, okay? So basically in here, what we're going to do, we are going to say console log, okay, a number which is going to be price. But price doesn't exist, okay? Price is going to be a variable. So basically, you would say price is going to be 100, for instance. But this is not what we're going to do. We are going to put price as an argument in here. So basically, the VTA is going to be price, okay, divided by 100 multiplied by 20. Okay, so this function calculate VTA, it's going to calculate VTA for us. So if I save and I trigger this function, we see that, so Guillaume is already triggered, we are going to remove this. We see that we got not as a number. Why? Because in here, price is a parameter, an argument. And we didn't put the argument, so price in here, it's not defined. When you write here an argument, what the function is going to do, it's going to say price, it's going to be the argument that you are going to pass in here. But as console log, we didn't pass any argument. So here we are supposed to put a price, okay? And here, let's say that we put 125, okay? So here I'm going to save, and when I update, 25 is the answer. So the VTA on $125 or euro with a 20%, it's going to be 25. So you see that this console log is triggered by the function that we call with an argument. Now that I've shown you how to write JavaScript, we should try to create elements inside our HTML because we didn't do it until that moment. So basically, we have an object inside our browser which is called window. So this object will show us, okay, in my console, everything that concerns my document, my browser right now. And if you look at this object window, it's a really big one. There are many entrants in this object. And all of these entrants help you triggering actions. Of course, this course cannot be on every object that we got in here, but you can catch everything that the user is doing, such as his position on the screen, the size of his screen, etc., etc., etc. With that, what we can do, we can access our document. So our document, so inside the window object, we've got a document. This is going to be our index.html. So if I update and get back, we see that I got my document. And my document is in here. So if I click on window.document.body and I update, we see that I got my body in here. So if I want to create an element, I got to remove body and I got to take document.create element, okay, a new P. So basically it's going to be a new paragraph. Okay. Okay, now I've got my paragraph and I want to write inside of it. But first, I have to say to the browser that I want to create a new element which is going to be some text, and it's going to be Guillaume. So here I'm going to type new Guillaume, for instance, window.document, and in here I'm going to use create text node. And this text is going to be Guillaume. It's going to be my string. So I gotta say to the window document to create this text node. And here I'm going to say on P, I want to have a new child, and I'm going to use append child. So basically this append child is going to contain Guillaume. All right? So now I have created my paragraph. So basically what I have here is a P containing Guillaume. Now I have to insert it inside my document. So basically I'm going to do document.body because I want to make it happen inside the body. And here we are going to use append child. Append child, it's a method that helps you to create an element dynamically at the place you are supposed to be. So here we are inside the document and inside body. And I'm going to put a new paragraph. And let's see what's going to happen. And when I get back and I go in here, we see that I got a P that has been created. All right? So what we did, we created before our first paragraph, and then we make it happen. So let's say we put all of this inside a function. All right? Function new element. Okay? Let's say that we want to create a new element every time we trigger this function. Let's get back on our index.html. So basically in here we have nothing. And let's create a new button in here. So our button is going to be here. Create a new paragraph. All right? I get back. Let's say that when I click, I want to create a new paragraph with JavaScript. How can I do this? It's really easy. What you're going to do is that you are going to use onClick. And onClick, it's going to trigger new element in here. So if I save and I get back and I click, we see that every time I click on new element, which is related by our script down here, I'm creating a new element in here. So you see that JavaScript can create elements inside your DOM and access elements that you got in here. And now with all these operations, we are going to write many JavaScript code that will trigger functions. So you see that now you have access to the window, to the body, to everything that happens in here. Now you know that JavaScript can interact dynamically with your index.html because we got our script, and we can trigger functions in here. Of course, there are many other attributes that you can use in HTML with JavaScript. If you want to know more, just look on the official documentation of JavaScript on mozilla.com, developer.mozilla.com. But as you see, now that we see that we can interact between index.html and script.js, you could write as much element as you want after to trigger any JavaScript code that you want. We created our first function, but let me show you something. Let's say that I don't want a console log. I want to have the final value. All right? So what we could use is return. A function can do many operations such as changing an object, console log elements, etc., etc. But most of the time, a function is returning a value. So let's say that our sentence, console log, okay, is going to be here. And what I want to do, instead of putting the operation in here, I want to say that I want to have directly the name of my function. And what I want to do is that I want to say return price, so the operation that we got down here, 100, and there we go. We can remove currency and just put VTA is price 100. Okay, so now we've got calculate VTA, that is returning for us the operation. And what can I do is that I can simply put calculate VTA. So I'm going to pass my price. I can remove dollar. And here I'm going to concatenate. So basically the dollar is supposed to be on the front. And there we go. So now return is going to trigger the operation just after and stop the function. And this is really important. So now I've saved and I get back with that VTA is $25. Okay? How amazing is this? So let's say that here I get back and put currency and I put dollar again. I want to show you something. So now I've got my currency. So let's say that I want to console log currency. So the function is going to console log, then show us the price. So I'm going to update and we see dollar and VTA is $25. But if I put console log just after the return, okay, and we get back, it doesn't happen. It doesn't show me the console log. Because everything that is after a return is not supposed to be here. It's not going to happen. Return is stopping the function. Okay? So basically, let's say that in here, I'm going to remove this. Let's say that, for instance, I'm going to say that I'm going to change the name of Guillaume by Clément, for instance. Okay? And I want to console log, okay, Guillaume name. And I want to do exactly the same just after the return. And after the return, I'm going to type Guillaume name. It's going to be Guillaume again. So this is some kind of hack. First, I say change the name, then show me the name, and then I want to get back to the real name, okay? So here it's supposed to be the hacking part, and here it's supposed to be the part where we retrieve the real name. This part is not going to happen, okay? Because I got the return just before. So if I save, you see that my VS Code is removing it because it has no way to happen just after. So I get back, I update, and we see that the name is Clément. Okay? So return, it's really useful and it's primary to use in JavaScript. Just so that return is stopping process, and it's really interesting for us if you want to stop a process at a certain point. But I'm going to show you something else. Let's say that our calculate VTA, okay, has a variable called percent, and it's going to be 20. So basically in here, so here equal 20. So here it's going to be percent in here. Okay, so here nothing changed. If I update my VTA, it's still 25. Okay? Let's say that I want to console log percent. Okay, I want to know what is the value of percent. And I get back and I update. We've got an error. Percent is not defined. But why? I've got percent in here. This is because we are in what we call a scope. When you declare an object or a variable up there, it's available globally. But if you declare an object, a variable, a string, a number, an array inside a function, this variable is only available inside the function. And in JavaScript, it's a common problem. Most of the time, we are in what we call scope, And we think that everything that is written inside this scope is available everywhere. But this is not the case. Here, the variable percent is created on calculate VTA. And when calculate VTA is triggered in here, it's creating its own script. It's like we create a new file in here, and in this file there will be only this operation. Of course, function doesn't create a file to do it, but it's to explain to you that everything that you write here inside these curly brackets is only available here. But what we write in the percent, so the value is returned outside the function. All right? So the question of scope is really important. This is why most of the time we declare variable that we want to access outside, globally on the top of our file. Now let's see conditions. And conditions in JavaScript, it's amazing. It's used all the time. So let's get back, okay, in here, in our calculate VTA function. And let's get back with this currency argument parameter that we pass down here. Okay, so here we pass $. All right. So let's say now that actually, I said percent, but actually it was VTA, okay? 20% is the VTA of the price we want to calculate. Let's say that when I put currency as $, I want to return, instead of just the number, I want to return $, plus the operation that is here. Okay? So what is going to happen if I do this? So now currency is not used. So I'm going to update, and we see that in here I got a double $. So this is a good lesson to see that you have to check what you concatenate exactly. Now I've got the $. Here, I don't need it here anymore. Okay, so let's say that if I put $, in here, I got a $, but if I put euro, how do I trigger the euro? So in order to do so, we are going to do instead plus currency. Okay, so I get back in here, and we see that I got, so I'm going to put euros. Okay, first what I want to do, I want to put a space. So I'm going to open a fake string in here, and there we go, euros. Okay, but if I put dollars, I got dollars. So let's say that now I want a condition. To create conditions in JavaScript, you got to type if. And if parenthesis, it's like a function between the curly brackets in here. You are going to write all the action that you want to do only if there is a certain condition. And how do we write a condition? It's really easy to understand. We are going to say if currency, and remember the comparisons that we had before. If currency is dollars, what I want to do, I want to return the $, in front of my price. Okay? So if I do this with dollars, I save, I get back, and we've got our message. But if I put euros, currency is not going to be euros. So it's not going to enter inside my condition in here. So if I get back, we see that VTA is undefined. Because calculate VTA didn't return anything. Because the condition here has not been completed. Okay? Here we don't get currency as dollars. All right? So if we don't get currency as $, it doesn't return anything. So what we should do, we should say exactly the same. We should say if currency is euros, return to me my price. But this time it's going to be just after, because euro are supposed to be after. In here, and I update. There we go. It entered inside our condition. So these two conditions will complete. But let's say that instead of doing this, if it doesn't enter dollar, we would enter automatically euros. So what we could do else. If and else are working together and say, if it's not this condition, it will always be these conditions. So if I put dollars, okay, it puts to me dollars. If I put euros, it put to me euros. And if I put something bad and I update, it's always going to trigger euros instead of any value that we see in here. Okay, so let's say that instead of putting euro, I would like to put return price VTA and let's say unknown currency. Okay, I should get back in here and type else if and the same condition as we did before, euro. And we could put else as much else if as we want to trigger all the condition. So basically in here, I would have unknown currency for any other type. Else, it's for any other type, any other condition, okay? So it means all conditions except the two one in here. So basically in here, if dollars, and down here, if euros. All right, now that we saw conditions and we saw how to display element in the DOM, let's say that here we would have a condition which is going to be show on true, okay? And let's say that dynamically we are going to create a new button. So window.document.create element button, and it's going to have a text. So window.document.create text node, and it's going to be click me. All right. So basically this new button is going to have the text inside of it. And let's say that we want to stick to a click to this button. How can we do this? But basically, you could create an element like we did before in HTML, but in JavaScript, you can also do it by using, add event listener. And add event listener is going to take as a first argument a string, then it's going to be a function, and this function is going to execute some code. And in here, we want to say that on click, new button is going to do something. And what is it going to do? We are going to say that it is going to make happen our new paragraph, which is going to be Guillaume up there. So basically in here, we are going to remove it. But what we want to do, we want to make happen at least the button, because if we don't have the button, if we don't have the button, it's not going to work. All right. So I'm going to save, get in here, and now I've got this button. All right. So if I click, we see that it makes happen only one time my div in here, my paragraph. All right. Okay, so very cool. But let's say that we want to make it happen only if show is on true. Is it possible? Is it possible to put a condition in here? Of course, it's possible. Okay, so here we've got our true in here, and we can make a condition inside our button in here. So I get back. Now show is on true. So Guillaume is appearing in here. But if I put show on false and I get back, I click and here I don't get my div appearing. We have just seen the conditions. Let me show you two native methods of JavaScript that can help you. So here we got our object Guillaume, and let's say that I want to know if in Guillaume I got the property called name. Okay? What I can do is I can create a condition and says that if I get these conditions, I'm gonna say that Guillaume has name as an existing property. Okay? And if I want to check that, what I can do is you could say that you could do this if there is Guillaume name, but what is more interesting that you can use as own property. Okay? And it's going to check as own property determines whether an object has a property with a specified name. So basically in here, if I type name, I can check if an object got the property name. And it's really useful because sometimes you want to add stuff to an object and maybe sometimes it already has the property, so it's supposed to get a value. And if it got a value, you don't want necessarily to override this value. So basically, we are going to do this now. And if I update, we see that we enter in the condition and Guillaume has name as an existing property. Okay, so let's do something else. Okay, we are going to say that if Guillaume has own property name, we are going to return. Okay, we could do this, but instead of doing this, we could make if Guillaume doesn't get the property name. And to say if Guillaume doesn't get the property name, we put the exclamation point on the top of the value. Exclamation point, it means that if this condition is the opposite as I'm looking for. So basically in here, if Guillaume doesn't get the property name, okay, I'm going to add the property Guillaume as a name, okay? So I'm going to console log Guillaume just after. So basically in here, I got a property called name. So I'm going to remove it and we are going to see what's gonna happen. So basically in here, I'm going to console log maybe before for you to understand clearly what I'm gonna do right now. So first we will have Guillaume before the condition and then we will have Guillaume after the condition. So I'm gonna get back, and when I update, we see that first the object didn't get the name Guillaume, then it got the name Guillaume. So as own property is really useful when you want to create entrance value inside a new object or inside an object that you are creating dynamically. All right, so let's say that now I want to check if Guillaume has the property name, but I want to check if it is really Guillaume. Okay? In order to do so, what I can do, I can use index of. And index of is going to return to me a value 0 or -1 to say yes it has or no it doesn't get it. So basically I want to know if Guillaume's got a property name. So I'm going to get back in here and put it again. And I want to know if this index is really Guillaume. All right? So basically, I'm going to console log all of this. All right. And we're gonna see what's gonna happen. So I get back, I update and I got 0. But if I change the G in here and I put it by a lowercase g and I get back, I got -1 as an answer. So this is how you can use as own property and index of to check your objects. Okay, so now we are going to see what are loops and while. Basically, in JavaScript, you can use what we call a loop So a loop, it's going to turn and turn and do again and again the same action, the same function, for instance, until you reach some point. And it's really useful because you don't want to repeat all the time the same action. So you create a function for that. So basically what we're going to do in here, we are going to remove all of this. And what I want to do, I want to make my age go upper. I mean, I want that to reach, for instance, so let's say that I'm 32 and let's say that I want to go to 82 as an age. If I want to do this, I can create a loop. I can create a loop with for. So basically, if I type for in here, okay, the for loop is going to create for me an action that is going to do again and again the same action. So basically, in this for loop, what I got to do, I got to create first a variable that is going to be a count, okay? And I'm going to say that count until count, so 0, is under a certain point. So here we want to reach 82. So 82 minus 32 is equal to 50. So basically in here, I'm going to put 50. So until the moment we didn't reach 50, I want to make my count upper, okay? So basically what it's going to do in here, we are going to start at 0, and until 0 is under 50, you are going to make 1 turn, 2 turn, 3 turn, etc., until 0. So basically in here, what we could do first is console logging the count for you to understand at how much count is. So I get back in here, I update, and there we go. We see that console log has been executed 49 times because 0 is the first number, remember. So basically in here, what we like is that what we could do is to say that we want to increase age, okay? So basically I'm going to put a plus plus because age plus plus, it means actually that I want to increment by 1 my age. So every time I'm going to console log Guillaume age, and we will see what's gonna happen. So I get back, I update, and there we go, my age incremented. How amazing is this? Okay? So inside the for loop, you could do many stuff. You could do functions. You want to repeat an action incrementally until a certain number. All right? Okay, let's go deeper into development with JavaScript. So basically in here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to save this model and I'm going to create a new variable called persons. And this variable is going to be an array that will contain several persons, okay? So basically at the top of each person, I'm going to put Guillaume, okay? Let's say in here that I'm going to put Jim, okay? And at the end, let's say I'm going to put Carla. I got 3 persons in my array. And let's say that on each person, I want to add a new property. So I want to do the same for all of them. What I can use a function called persons.forEach. This forEach, it accepts a function inside. So basically in here, it's a function like you would create, okay? And in here, I want to console log there is 1 person. So basically in here we got 3 persons. So it's supposed to console log 3 times there is 1 person. And we see it in here, we console log there is 3 persons. So how do I get each person? In here in function, basically, what you got natively the object and the index that you can catch. So what I can do is I can say there is 1 person, and down here I can console log first the index, then the object. Okay, so I get back in here And there we go. We see that the first person is Guillaume at 0, the second is Jim, the third is Carla. So basically in here, if I console X name for each object, and the object have to have the same value, I get back in here and I have Jim, Guillaume, Jim, and Carla, because I ask for every name. But with for each, what you can do is you can also add a new property. So basically in here, what I can do, I can type X, and for instance, what property can we add? We can add the city. It's going to be Paris. And I'm going to console log persons at the end to see if every person will get a new property called city. So I update, I get back, and we see that every time the city is Paris, because for each helped me to create new element inside my X. Let's say that now we want to find Guillaume. How can we do this? So I'm going to type find Guillaume, and I'm going to console log this find Guillaume. Okay? Yes. So basically, I can type persons, and I can use what we call filter. So filter, it's going to find somebody with the arguments that somebody or something, but here it's somebody, with the arguments that you are going to provide. So filter, it's also a function, okay? It's also a function, and it's always the same. In here, you can have the whole object, or the whole string, or the whole everything, and then the index. So here, I'm just going to use X, and I'm going to say to the filter to return to me Guillaume. So I'm going to type X name is equal to Guillaume. And let's see what's going to happen if I do this. I update and I get an array as a response. Why? Because basically, filter is supposed to return many elements. So naturally, it's going to return to you an array. But now it didn't return me anything because I didn't put return. Basically, it's Guillaume in here. And if I update, I get my Guillaume in here. Okay? And if I want to access Guillaume, of course, I say that I want the index 0 of the array. All right? So basically, we could say that return to me everybody that is under 33 as an age. Okay? And in here, so basically I have to remove this because now I want several elements. I get back and now I get all the person except Jim because Jim he has an age upper than 33. He's older than the other person. So there we go. We can filter like this. It's really, really useful in JavaScript. The last element I wanted to show you map. So basically, map, it's a function that accepts up to 3 arguments, and the map method calls a callback function one time for each element in the array. So what it does, basically, with for each you can add property, but you're not supposed to modify those properties. Map, it's a function made to dynamically execute functions inside your object. So basically, we could do exactly the same. We've got map in here, and let's say that what we want to do, we want to make the age of everybody taking 1 year. So at the end, I'm going to console log persons, and let's see what is going to happen. Back in here, we see that everybody is 1 year older because I said to everybody to do this. And I don't need to put a return before. Map, it's for dynamically applying functions to elements and dynamically change and create new value inside the elements that we are mapping. All right, we just saw the for loop. Let's now try to display this for loop inside our DOM. So I got an array of persons in here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a for loop. And what we're going to do in here, it's what we did before. Basically, what we did before is that until the moment I is under person's length. So person's length is the length of our array. So here it's going to be 1, 2, 3. Loop, just loop and do it again. So basically in here, what we're going to do, we are going to create a new element, and it's not going to be Guillaume of the time, okay? This is not what we want. We want to have the name of persons. So remember in here, what we're going to do, we are going to call persons. And instead of putting 0, 1, and 2 to get Guillaume, Jim, and Carla, we are going to put I, because I in here at the first loop is on 0, the second 1, and the third 2. And we want to display their name because each object got a name inside a name value. All right? So I'm going to save, get back, and when I open in here, there we go. We've got Guillaume, Jim, and Carla displayed. All right, so basically what we could do is put an age also. So basically I'm going to put age, and here it's going to be 30, here it's 47, and here it's 19. And let's say that we want to create some kind of template. So in here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a template. And this template, what it's going to be? It's going to be name, so plus here, okay? Then a new plus age plus persons dot I dot age. So at every loop, it's going to take the name of the current person, then the number, and create for us this template. And what I'm going to display, I'm going to display this template. So if I save and I get back, I update, and look at this. Dynamically, I have created in my HTML file, in my DOM, the elements that I wanted to be displayed. All right. Let's now try to create a filter with an input on the array of persons that we got in here. So we create our new input, which is window.document.create element of input. All right. So this new input will have an add event listener. So it will take a function, of course, and this event listener is going to be input. So let's say that we are going to console log hello at first, and then what we're going to do, we are going to document.body.append child of new input. All right? So when I get back, and in here we see that I got my input. And if I type on it, we see that we got hello. But I don't want hello, I want the value in here. And what is available is that in my function parameter in here, I got the value that I can have. So I'm going to type value in here. And if I get back and I update, etc., etc., we see that we got a big object that contains many stuff. And we've got this target object, okay, which is really big. And at the end, I have normally value. All right, so it's a very long object, etc., etc. And the value, this is what I'm typing, okay? So I'm going to target, actually, this is not value, this is event.target in here, sorry, and event.target.value, all right? So I get back in here, I update, and what I'm typing, as you see, is console logging in here. So here I'm going to create a function called filter persons. All right. And I'm also going to create a function down here, create paragraph. When I'm going to type, I'm going to send the value in here to my filter person. So basically it's going to work this way. I'm going to type a name in here. And this filter person will have results, and I will filter on persons. So basically in here, I will have a function, and I will return, of course, x.name is equal to name. So the results will be a filter of persons that x names, so the name of an object, will match with the value that I will inject down here. And with these results, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say for each result that you will have, okay, for each result that you will have, you will create for me a paragraph with the name of the result. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to console log every result that I'm going to have to see if my filter person is working on my input in here. So I'm going to type Guillaume, and there we go. We see that it found Guillaume on the results. So here I'm going to create a new division, create element of a div, and then a new text, okay, which is going to be a document dot create text node of course, what I'm going to put in here, so my text. Okay, so text will be here. So down here, a new div is going to append child my new text, and of course my document.body is going to append child my new div. So what we did in here, we created a function that is creating a paragraph, so a division, and putting some text and make it happen inside our body. So basically in here, what we are supposed to do is to say, create a new paragraph of X. But this X in here, we have to change his name. It's going to be a response to make a difference with the X we made upper, even if it's not the same scope. We don't want to mix names. And this response, we want the name of the object. We don't want the object, okay? We want the name. So we want Carla, Jim, and Guillaume, okay? So basically, we are going to put this. And before, we are going to put an if. If there is a response, create the paragraph. But if there is no response, don't create it. All right? So let's get back and let's check if it's going to work. So here I'm going to type Jim, and there we go. Jim is happening on my DOM. If I type Guillaume, it's going to put Guillaume. But the thing is, we don't want all those results to be displayed after each other. We have to remove all the elements that we had before. Okay, so first what we gotta do, we are going to create a new div. Okay, so and this div is going to have all the response that we are looking for. So window.document.create element of div, okay, and then I'm going to give a set attribute to this new div, and this attribute is going to be response. So set attribute is going to give an ID of response to my new response. And I'm going to make it happen. So document.body.append child new responses. Okay? And instead of creating a paragraph up there, I'm going to look for the element by ID, which is called response in here. And in here, I'm going to append child of my new div. So all my paragraphs are going to be happening in here. All right? So I created a new div. So if I update, I get my new div, and all the responses will be here. And when I'm going to type, I'm going to create a new paragraph in my div. Back up there, I'm going to create a new function called empty responses. Okay? And this function empty responses is going to be called at the beginning of my research. It means that every time I'm going to filter for somebody, it's going to empty my responses. So here I'm going to target my get element by ID, my responses. And in here to empty my div, what I can do is to put inner HTML to an empty response. So basically what we did in here is that we have created a new div which will contain our paragraph when we will type. Okay? So when we will type, filter person is going to be called, and at the beginning it will empty the responses for us. Then it will filter and then check for response, and if there is a response, create paragraph is going to create for us an element of new div. So let's check if it's working. So back in here, I'm going to go on console log, I'm going to type Guillaume, And there we go, we've got Guillaume. And if I remove Guillaume, it's removing me the answer. And if I type Carla, okay, and if I type Jim, okay, amazing. Our filter function is working. With JavaScript, as you saw, you can dynamically create elements. And what we like with JavaScript is that with some piece of code, you can repeat some code and execute many functions. So we saw that we can use function, for, we can use for each, etc., etc. But basically in here, what we're gonna do, so I'm going to remove all of this. I'm going to create a new variable called persons, okay? And persons is going to be an array, all right? And let's say that I want to create a function that will add the previous model that we had before. So basically, let's say that we are going to create a function called create persons, okay? And this create persons is going to be a function that will take as parameters what we saw before. So it can take, for instance, a name, an age, and a city, okay? And in here, specifically, we say that create is supposed to be person. We want to return an object, and this object is going to take a name, so the name is going to be name, age is going to be age, and city is going to be city. So this is really dumb to write this. With the new JavaScript version, and we are going to talk about it later, you can just return this. It will understand that you want to create the name in here. Okay, so what I propose you to do is to see what create person is going to do if we create somebody called Guillaume with the age of 32 and city is Paris. And if I get back and I update, there we go. So basically, create person is supposed to be a factory, okay? It's supposed to be a factory that creates for us a character every time we need. So here we can put Jim, and if I remember, Jim was 47, and he was not from Paris, but New York City, for instance. And if I get back, we see that dynamically, JavaScript is creating for us the elements that we want. That's what we call factories. And this is really, really useful because every time we keep the same model. Every object is going to have the same model. All right? So basically what we could do, we could say, okay, what I want to have a new person. And this new person is going to be what? It's going to be a create person. And it's going to be Guillaume, 32, and Paris as a city. So basically in here, I'm going to put single quotes. And this new person, okay, this new person, I want to push it into my array of persons. So I'm going to console log persons just after. And if I get back and I update, what happened is that my factory dynamically created a person and pushed it into the persons array that we got upper. So basically here it's a very simple way of creating factories. With the new JavaScript, which is ES6 or ES7, you can create functions with arrows. So basically you remove the name function and just after you put an arrow like this. And it will return to us this object in here. But what we want to do, we want to remove this return. You can remove this return now. And you can also remove this object like here. And here you put all of this inside parentheses. This is a newer style of writing JavaScript. And if I get back and I update, I have the same result. Okay? So create person is a factory, and it can help me to create elements that I want. I could also determine, okay, directly an element, and here it's not possible for the person who created the person to change the origins. So basically in here we see that as an origin I got the persons. But I could also put a function, okay? I could put a function, okay, to set the name, okay, to set the name of my object, okay? I could do many stuff like this. And as you saw, I use this. So this is supposed to be related to the object that I am going to create. So inside my object, I added a function called setName. I didn't change the name. setName that is taking this argument and put a new name in here. So this is JavaScript factories. If you want to know more, I suggest you to look back on the web. We don't get so much time, but you could create bigger factories that help you to dynamically create elements. And this is really important if you want to code in JavaScript, because you are going to repeat all the time the same actions. So what are promises? So basically, on JavaScript, you are triggering functions, and those functions are synchronous. So basically, promise help you to wait for an action to be done. So I'm going to remove all of this, and I'm going to create a new variable called promise1. All right? And this promise1 is going to be a new promise. And to declare a new element in JavaScript, you can type the new word. So basically it can be a new object, a new string. So basically in here it's going to be a new promise, okay? And this new promise is going to be a function. So this new function in here, as we saw before, so it's the same as doing this, okay? So basically this new function, it's going to do something, all right? But the elements that we get in the promise are very important. You gotta know two things. If you launch a promise, it's going to wait for an action to do. And if this action succeeds, we are going to use resolve. So when the action is going to be done, we are going to trigger resolve, which is a function inside the promise, and it will tell to the first promise, so promise1 in here, it's done. So it's going to return the action. But if you don't trigger resolve, it's never going to return the action. So the function is going to be stopped. It will wait for a possible return. And if it didn't work, you can use reject. Reject, it's exactly the same as resolve. It's going to return something, but it's to say it didn't work. Okay? So resolve is for success, reject is for failure. Basically in here, what we want to do, we want to say that, so if I console log, of course, if I console log done in here, okay, I have to basically say after that I want to resolve it. So basically I'm going to call promise1. So you think that it's a function, so let's put parentheses, let's get back. And we see that promise1 is not a function. So, but we saw that it has been executed. Promises don't need to be triggered. It's already in their nature to be triggered. So you can type just promise1. And if I get back, I see done. But this is too fast. This is too fast. Let's say that we want to wait something to be done in here. And basically most of the time it's going to be a call to another website. And you have to know that there is a loading every time you call a website because you wait for the call to be returned. So what we want to do here, we want to simulate. we can use what we call set timeout. It's a function on JavaScript that will wait to be triggered until a certain time. Okay? And so here we got a function inside set timeout, and after we can put in milliseconds the time to wait, the waiting time until it's going to be triggered. So here I'm going to put 1 second. So 1000 milliseconds. And I'm going to say resolve instead of console logging, finished after 1 second. Okay? So my promise is waiting for the resolve to be executed after 1000 seconds. And after 1000 milliseconds. So after 1 second, the promise will be resolved. All right? And nothing happens. Why? What I did in here is that I just resolve but not console log. I've sent a value inside promise 1, but I didn't console log it. And my function is triggered in here, not in here. Okay? So I want to catch the value of finished after 1 second in here. What I'm going to use the function then. So basically, the function then can return to me the data sent by resolve. So in here, I'm going to console log the data. And this data object, of course, it could be X. Okay, it could be Y, it could be whatever you want to call it. It's going to be the resolve in here. So I get back, I update, and after 1 second, we see that I got my message in here. So what we could do is put more than 1 second. We could put 5 seconds and to see what's gonna happen. Okay, so I update. I wait, and after 5 seconds, now I've got my message. So this is how promises are working in JavaScript, and this is really useful. Basically, if you would have an error, okay, you could say reject error for if, just imagine you got a condition in here, okay, if this condition is working, okay, you resolve. If it's not, you reject, okay? To catch the error in here, we can use another function that is going to be called catch. And catch, basically, it's going to be exactly the same as then, but it's only going to be triggered if you catch, if there is an error rejected, all right? So at the end, we see that we got a reject error, because the set timeout hasn't been triggered and we've got the reject in here. So let's say that we set timeout, and let's say for any reason, okay, just after our timeout, we didn't get our resolve in here, it's going to reject. Of course, here it's going to work. So I'm going to update. And we wait, is it going to be error or resolve? It's going to be resolve, of course. So basically in here, which is really cool, is that we could also put a function that whatever is gonna happen, I can do things here, such as a loader with finally. So finally, whatever is going to be then or catch, I can do this. So basically, I'm going to update, and we will see that there we go. It has been resolved, and I can do what I want. So a promise in JavaScript, it's always used all the time. You use it to create dynamic actions waiting for other actions to be done. And it's really used in the web also, because you are going to wait for a website to answer to you to get the data. So you really have to masterize the promises in JavaScript. As I told you before, JavaScript is always evolving and providing new specification and new features. So basically, in all this course, I showed you all the major functions that you would use if you want to start to learn JavaScript. But you gotta know that every time there is a new version of JavaScript, and this is ECMAScript that provides to us new features. And we are right now at ECMAScript 6 and 7. So basically, many stuff changed, and I will show you quickly how you can write new JavaScript. So I told you before that you can create a variable with my variable like this, okay? But you probably saw it during one of these lessons. There is not only var that is available to create new variables. Basically, with ES6, what you can do is creating a let. And let, it's a variable that you can modify. Okay? You can modify this variable. And in here, for this variable, it's exactly the same. This was a problem. We wanted to keep some variable constants. So basically, ES6 provided a new one, my variable 2, so a new one called const. And in here, you cannot change this const. You can't modify const. So when you put a const in here, it means that this variable is going to stay all the time Guillaume. And you cannot change my variable 3. Okay, you cannot say that it's going to be Kevin, and you are going to console log this, and it's not going to change. You gotta have an error. You see, assignment to constant variable, you got an error. But you could change, of course, my variable 2, because my variable 2 is a let and a var. So this is really useful. As I showed you before, you can use arrow functions for functions. So basically, before we used to do this, okay? Now what you can do is dynamically use the arrow function instead of putting a function type before. Another thing that you could do is use array includes. So let's say that we have an array called persons, and in these persons we've got Guillaume, Jim, and Carla, and we want to know if this array includes Jim. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to console log persons, and I'm going to type includes, and in here I'm going to put Jim. And if I get back in here, I got a true, because this array really includes Jim. So basically, includes, it helps you to destructure your array and check if there is a value including this array. This is a shorter way to write if an array has a property. Another thing that you can do is destructuring objects, and we love that because we've got here name Guillaume and age 32. Make the opposite, now you already declare it. Create from Guillaume a variable name and a variable age. So I'm going to console log this, and once you've done this, you get back, you update, and you got Guillaume in here, and then you got age also. So let's say that I just want the key of my object Guillaume. I can use what we call object. So I'm going to say object keys of Guillaume. So let's say that I want to have this and I want to console log it. I get back, I update, and I got an array with all the keys of Guillaume. The same thing exists with values. I just want to have the values of my object. So I'm saving and I get back, and I got here Guillaume and stuff. And you can use that in a for instance. So here I'm going to create some variables. So here I'm going to create several variables, the key and the value. All right. And I'm going to say I want the key and the value of my object. But so what I'm going to do now is that I want to get the key and the value of the object entries of Guillaume. I'm going to get back update, and we see that my first name is Guillaume and my age is 32. Let's now talk about the spread operator. The spread operator helps you to merge two different objects or array. So basically here I got two groups. Okay, I got Jim, Carla, I got Guillaume and Carla and Jim in the second group, and I want to make only one group. With the spread operator, I can do it. So basically I'm going to create a new group. And this new group, it's going to be an array. Okay, and this array, in this array, I'm going to call group 1 and group 2. But if you do this, you are going to have two arrays inside one array. The spread operator is those 3 points. That means I just want the elements, and you merge this element inside this new group. So I'm going to console log the new group. And if I get back, we see that I got my new group in here, merge. Do exactly the same with object. So here I got two groups, Guillaume and Carla are inside the group 1 and Jim inside the group 2. And I want to create a new group. This time it's curly brackets instead of array. So I'm going to console log the new group in here. All right. And I'm going to see that now I've got one object with all the members inside. How amazing is this? You got async and await in JavaScript that help you to create asynchronous function. Instead of doing promises, you can say that you are going to create an async function. So let my function is going to be asynchronous. Okay, async function. Okay, that is going to await. Okay, so async and await goes together. Await for another function. So basically another function. Okay? And a last thing to show you is template strings. It's really easy to understand. ES6, ES7, you can use backticks. So backticks, it's next to your enter pad, and backticks can help you to dynamically insert your variable. So basically it's not going to be my name is Guillaume like this, because here it's supposed to be a string. But what you're going to do is that instead of Guillaume in here, you are going to type $ curly brackets and typing Guillaume in here. So here you see that as a string, dynamically the template string is injecting my variable inside my backticks. It helps not doing concatenation. So ES6, ES7 has many new features. These are the basic features I wanted you to know.